Take your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tashi Chopel, and I was one of the executive board members of the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey, serving the 16th term, and my position was the English secretary for the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey. So now, without wasting much time, I'm going to read the press release which will highlight the issue that has recently occurred about the NYPD officer Bema Daji Angwang. So for immediate release, September 22nd, 2020, Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey's response to the news of Chinese government agent infiltration of NYPD. On behalf of the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey, we express our great alarm and indignation at learning that a Chinese agent has infiltrated the NYPD spy on the Tibetan community. According to news reports, an NYPD officer named Bema Daji Angwang has been arrested for spying on local Tibetan communities in New York for the Chinese government. New York is home to the largest Tibetan diaspora community in North America, a community that is very passionate about preserving Tibetan culture, language, and identity, and advocating for human rights. Many of these Tibetans have experienced persecution, displacement, statelessness, and other brutalities at the hands of the Chinese government. Tibetans have long known the Chinese government is spying on our communities, even in a free country like the United States, and this incident shows the lengths to which Beijing would go to undermine the Tibetan freedom movement. That a Chinese spy targeting Tibetans could infiltrate NYPD and even the US military should be a wake-up call for all our leaders at the federal, state, and local level about the alarming depth and reach of all China's espionage operations. Because of this individual was in NYPD, he held a position of authority and influence that he exploited to advance China's political agenda and try to stop the Tibetan community from engaging in pro-Tibet political activities. Bema Daji Angwang is not a member of the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey. He was virtually unknown to our community until 2018. But on numerous occasions, he tried to contact the Tibetan community using his authority as an NYPD officer, quote, to offer service and support to the Tibetan community. On January 5th, 2019, he requested a meeting to introduce himself as a Tibetan to the Tibetan Community Board. At this meeting, he told us that he would help us liaise with local police precincts and help invite them to our Tibetan New Year event. We wanted to have good relations with the local police and thought it was a good opportunity to reach out. Angwang attended the first Tibetan community public event on February 9th, 2019, when he, along with other local NYPD officers, came to the Tibetan Community Center for the Tibetan New Year celebration. As an immigrant community, we try to keep cordial relations with local law enforcement, and that is why we were pleased to have a large NYPD contingent with us at the New Year celebration. Along with the NYPD, the Tibetan Community Center independently invited Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as the chief guest for the event, along with New York State senators, council members, local media, various cultural groups, including many non-Tibetans who have supported the Tibetan cause for a long time. It was an enormous gathering of couple of thousand Tibetans and friends. A few days after the New Year celebration, on March 3rd, 2019, the Tibetan Community Board saw a photo of Ang Wang's wife at a Chinese consulate of New York event. That picture, which indicated Ang Wang's affiliation with the Chinese consulate, made us feel very uncomfortable and somewhat suspicious. After the New Year's celebration, our suspicion around Ang Wang grew when he voiced his disapproval of speeches by Tibetan leaders on political and human rights situations in Tibet. He further suggested that we refrain from raising the Tibetan national flag at the community center. What kind of Tibetan would ever tell us not to raise the Tibetan flag? Of course, we never heeded his unsolicited advice. After that incident, the Tibetan Community Board had a discussion on this issue and officially decided to cut off any contact with him. We agreed that he did not seem like someone we could trust. Ang Wang tried to contact the Tibetan board members numerous times, but we consistently rebuffed him because he had grown suspicious of him. We had grown suspicious of him and his ties. After he made repeated attempts to contact the former president of the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey, confronted him over the phone and directly asked about his relations with the Chinese consulate in New York, which he acknowledged. At that point, the president informed him about the community's decision to cut off all ties with him. Since then, we have avoided all contact with Ang Wang. We are very grateful that the FBI and NYPD have arrested Ang Wang as a Chinese agent working for the Chinese government. We strongly condemn his activities and his betrayal of the Tibetan community's freedom struggle, as well as his betrayal of American national security. 1.2 million Tibetans have died as a direct result of Chinese occupation since China's invasion of Tibet in 1949. Over 6,000 Tibetan monasteries have been destroyed in Tibet. Tibet is one of the most heavily restricted countries in the world. In March 2020, Freedom House ranked Tibet as the second least free place in the world for the 5th consecutive year. Only Syria ranks as less free. But the Tibetan people, both in Tibet and in exile and around the world, continue to resist Chinese oppression and occupation. Founded in 1979, the Tibetan community of New York and New Jersey is the oldest and the largest organization serving Tibetan immigrants in North America, established as a non-profit 501c3 charitable non-profit organization under the federal government of the United States of America. We offer our support of Tibetan-based educational, cultural, and religious programs while also reaching out to community members in need. While we are committed to building strong relations within the Tibetan community through organizing events that will allow members to contact and reach out to one another, we also embrace our relationship outside the community through creating and organizing awareness campaigns. Thank you. So that was the press release, and if you need a copy, I can give it to you.